This is Our View, the television voice, the proud members of the Washington Federation of State Employees, the people who work for you. It always seems the needs of business and the needs of public employees are at odds, usually put there by special interests who have influence with legislators and members of Congress. Well, here's a perspective from an owner of a small business who is also a member of the City Council. She says in her case, it's state employees who are the backbone of her business success, and if other business owners will stop and think about it, public workers play a major role in their success as well.
Living and having a business in Olympia, I think I do have a unique perspective because Olympia is one of the most uniquely sited state capitals in the nation, and it's an historic main street as well. So downtown we have unique shops. They're usually sole proprietorships, small mom and pop businesses, and we rely heavily on the health of state government workers. We are like the canary in the coal mine. So when there's cuts at the state level, it immediately impacts our businesses. As an elected official, I've become more aware recently of the disparity of incomes that are happening across our United States. Public unions are the backbone of keeping our middle class healthy, and if we don't have a healthy middle class, nothing else matters. And so we have to support our unions because they are protecting us from becoming too disparate in our income distribution. And they also as well protect the rights of those workers to have healthy and safe, clean and working environments. And when they're healthy, everybody's healthy. So we have to be able to speak across the state to that. When state government sneezes, small businesses get the cold. So I am a big advocate for buying local, buying small, and supporting your community, because all those dollars stay in your community. I want to also acknowledge how important state workers are in our communities. They're our friends, they're our neighbors, they're our children's soccer coaches, they're our volunteers in our community. State workers are an amazing asset for any community to have, and they need to be supported.
We have already witnessed the international politics, the strife, the finances connected to the resource of oil, that its cost and availability create havoc among populations. It can be worse. Another basic resource, even more precious than oil, is water. Most of us take it for granted. However, not long ago, there were battles in the streets of one South American city following the takeover of the municipal water system by a corporation. You hear business can always do it better, so what's the problem? A big problem when a profit motivation makes water so expensive that people have to choose between water and food.
Prospect that 2/3 of the world's population will have no access to fresh drinking water by 2025 has provoked the initial confrontations in a worldwide battle for control over the planet's most basic resource. When Bolivia sought to refinance the public water service of its third largest city, the World Bank required that it be privatized, which is how the Bechtel Corporation of San Francisco gained control over all of Cochabamba's water, even that which fell from the sky.
Esta ley, este contrato, prohibían a la gente acumular el agua de la lluvia. Por lo tanto, el agua de la lluvia también se privatizaba. La factura de agua le daba un valor legal a la empresa para que pueda apropiarse de su propiedad, de su vivienda, rematando la misma. La gente debía optar por una decisión de comer menos, pagar del agua, pagar por los servicios básicos, dejar de mandar a los niños a la escuela, no asistir a los hospitales y curarse en la propia casa, o en todo caso, gente jubilada, por ejemplo, que tiene una renta muy, muy baja, debería buscar trabajo en las calles. Con la consigna de el agua es nuestra, carajo, la gente sale a las calles, sale a los caminos y protesta, ¿no?
The price this beleaguered country paid for World Bank loans was the privatization of the state oil industry and its airline, railroad, electric, and phone companies. But the government failed to convince Bolivians that water is a commodity like any other.
Entonces, ahí sí vimos que el gobierno defendía los intereses de la transnacional Bechtel, porque la gente quería agua, no gases. La gente quería justicia y no balas.
Estas son las imágenes que reflejan definitivamente la situación que vivió Cochabamba durante la jornada de este viernes. Prácticamente estuvo sitiada. Policías del departamento...
Bolivia was determined to defend the corporation's right to charge families living on $2 a day, as much as 1/4 of their income for water. The greater the popular resistance to the water privatization scheme, the more violent became the standoff.
Y por eso hubieron centenares de heridos jóvenes que a sus 16, 17 años perdieron brazos, perdieron piernas, quedaron paralíticos, quedaron lesionados de la cabeza de por vida y murió Víctor Hugo Daza.
The labor movement is alive and well in South Africa, and the leaders there all remember the standards that are the legacy left by Nelson Mandela.
Well, obviously, first to say that our icon, the late Nelson Mandela, has set the pace and the trend for fellow South Africans and the whole world, you know, to deal with issues of inequality, poverty, and those type of social evils. I think South Africa, it's a much better country today, and we're following on of the legacy that the late Tata Madiba has left us. He was always part of a collective, although it might seem that he was an individual, but he acted on a mandate. He was always part of the African National Congress and the broader South African public in general. So we are taking further the legacy that he left in to build a better society and a better world after all. The key issue is social dialogue. Social dialogue where the stakeholders can come together and iron out the difficulties and the problems that South Africa experience in general, as well as the economic challenges that we are facing. And that social dialogue is as part of the history of South Africa. When this new government 20 years ago was voted in by the majority of the people, there's a vehicle that we call NEDLEC, which is for National Economic Development and Labour Council, where all the stakeholders, government, business, and the labour movement gets together and they deliberate on all issues of economic policy and other issues that affect society in general. Closing work is there's huge challenges lying ahead. Inequality, unemployment is still rife in South Africa, but working together and strengthening social dialogue, we should overcome our challenges. But it's not an easy road ahead.
Over a half-century ago, President Eisenhower turned over the Oval Office to John F. Kennedy. Ike said goodbye and left us with a warning about what he called the military-industrial complex that, left unchecked, would someday begin to drive our nation's foreign policy. Back then, not many people understood that message, but today we get it.
I come to you with a message of leave-taking and farewell.
This speech did not get very much attention. When a new president is coming to power, as John Kennedy was, the spotlight was not on Dwight Eisenhower.
We have been compelled to create a permanent armaments industry of vast proportions.
There was a feeling at the time that this must have been written by some speechwriter who just sneaked into the speech.
In the councils of government, we must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex.
3 months ago, we got contacted by a family up in Minnesota saying that we have documents from Malcolm Moose. He was responsible in part for drafting the military-industrial complex speech.
These new papers give us written evidence that this was not just some caprice of Eisenhower's or something by some speechwriter.
You see the evolution of his speech from May 1959 to 1961.
And he wanted to give this speech for a long time, 2 years.
Our military organization today bears little relation to that known of any of my predecessors in peacetime, or indeed by the fighting men of World War II or Korea.
There was one person in Dwight Eisenhower's life whom he really confided almost everything to, and that was his brother Milton.
There's one particular document where the speechwriters had already drafted their version of the speech, only to see Milton come along and totally revamp what had already been written.
When Milton Eisenhower was taking notes and writing things on the drafts of these speeches, the speechwriters knew that it wasn't Milton talking, it was Ike.
The potential for the disastrous rise of misplaced power exists and will persist.
He would see magazines with advertisements for some new warplane or some bomb, and he got so angry he'd take the magazine and throw it into the fireplace of the Oval Office because he felt that defense spending should not be something that would be encouraged by companies who are seeking commercial gain.
We must never let the weight of this combination endanger our liberties or democratic processes.
There is an interesting document. It shows that the farewell speech would be made to Congress. But yet, President Eisenhower decided no, he was going to address the people.
Only an alert and knowledgeable citizenry can compel the proper meshing of the huge industrial and military machinery of defense with our peaceful methods and goals, so that security and liberty may prosper together.
One test of how well a president speaks is how long the speech lives. Here we are 50 years later, we're still talking about this speech.
Now, on Friday noon, I am to become a private citizen. I am proud to do so. I look forward to it. Thank you, and good night.
This has been Our View, brought to you by the members of the Washington Federation of State Employees. We remind you, when you accept a paycheck for your hard work, you don't give up your rights. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next month.